Welcome back to another week of renovation. It's the following week. I'm going to be picking up exactly where I left off. I have all the lower cabinet drawer faces and doors ready to install, so I'm going to jump right in and start doing that first. I want to get all of them in place because I do have the cabinet hardware coming tomorrow. So hopefully that comes in time and I can get some of the installed, at least on the lowers, that will be complete and ready to go at that point. The first plan of action was to get these lower doors installed. It's pretty seamless with one of these door hinge jigs. You just line everything up, get your measurements exactly how you want them, and then it's just repeat. I decided to go with a inset cabinet door for this style of kitchen cabinet, so I went ahead and bought the appropriate hinges. And because they're inset, it was actually pretty easy to install these ones because the actual door was able to sit inside the cabinet rather than trying to install the hinge while the door is floating outside of the cabinet. Once that first cabinet's installed, it's just kind of plug and go. And before I knew it, all of the lower cabinet doors were installed. Now that I have a good chunk of the cabinetry done, I do want to next move on to these floating shelves that are going to go above this little trash can and dishwasher area. I think what we're going to do is try to do 2 shelves and do them staggered. So we'll have one lower shelf here and then one shelf slightly above it but slightly shorter. That way if anyone wants to put something taller on the end of the bottom shelf, they can and it will fit, while still having this smaller shelf with this nice handy outlet right above it. So you could plug in something that could play music or a clock, something like that. Sometimes it's just nice to have an outlet near a shelf. I'm trying to decide if I want to take this shelf all the way out to where this drywall meets the paneling. We are going to tile the lower shelf between the countertop and the lower shelf, but I don't think we're going to tile above that. So if I butt this up to this paneling right there, I think that will be a pretty good stopping point. I'm just putting these brad nails just to hold it in place nice and level. I will go in with some wood screws and affix this support bar actually to the studs themselves. It's finally time to start prepping the uppers for paint. I wanted to go in and apply a liberal amount of caulking to the trim that I put around the top of the uppers, as well as any cracks and seams like down the side of these uppers, just to create a seamless paint line where the wall paint and the cabinet paint are going to meet and make everything blend together. I always find a bucket of clean water and a damp microfiber towel to be my best friend when it comes to caulking. There's always so much excess caulking that comes out and it just smooths everything over. After that's done, I'm going to go ahead and sand all of the cabinet boxes and the doors so that they're nice and smooth and ready for paint. When it comes to the paint color, I actually custom mixed this color. It's almost a very warm, neutral tan gray color. I'd say it's more of a medium toned. It plays really well with the wall color and the trim color. It's different enough where it stands out and can hold its own against both of those colors without looking too matchy-matchy. And it also pairs beautifully with that warm stained wood tone that's on the lowers and the interior of this large upper cabinet. What I will do is leave a little sample of this color behind for the new owners and make sure to label exactly what formula it is and let them know that it's a custom color. So if they do want to get this color again, it will have to be color matched, but almost every store does that these days. I was going back and forth contemplating whether I wanted to stain these shelves or paint them the same as the cabinet color. In the end, I did opt to stain them because just like furniture, it's always easier to stain first, and if it doesn't turn out the way you're hoping it will, you can always paint over that stain as long as it's primed and sealed properly. I did end up really liking the way the stain took to these shelves, and it didn't make the kitchen look too choppy or stand out. I was a little worried that they'd be too dark against the stark light walls, but I think that it blended just fine. I did go ahead and tape off all of the exterior of the shelves, but if you ever try to stain with a very watery stain like this, it just gets everywhere. I'm sure my tape helped a little bit, but it still made a huge mess. Not a big deal. I'll let that stain completely dry down and put a little primer and wall paint back on those areas that the stain did get on, and it'll cover up just fine. I'm going to go in with some primer on these doors. It's not so much for bleed through. This plywood does not really bleed, and this paint is really good at covering. It's more to press it into the grain of this plywood and give myself lots of coverage so that I'll have to do less coats of paint. I'm excited. The hardware has finally come in. I think it's going to look great against these cabinets. I have cup pulls for all the drawers and knobs for all the doors. I like to have pulls for drawers. It just gives a much more substantial place to hold in order to pull them out. This morning I want to start installing one of these tip out drawer fronts. They're so convenient for sponges and things like that. Because of course, typically these drawers are useless. Usually it's just a false front because your sink is in the way, so you can't add an actual drawer. So these tip out drawers make it a little bit more useful, a little bit more functional. I've traced out already where the hardware needs to go. And it's so much easier to install these before you get the sink and countertop in place. When you have both of those things in, they're a bit of a challenge, but it's not a big deal at this stage. When we did have this entire kitchen torn apart and all the sheetrock off the walls, we did make sure to add in a outlet and light switch specifically to control some under cabinet lighting. I absolutely love under cabinet lighting. It adds such a moody feel to a kitchen. I love to use it as kind of like a night light at night, and this particular lighting that we did choose, just like a lot of them that are on the market today, does have a timer. So if somebody did want to actually time the light to turn on and off, they could do so very easily. They just attached to the cabinets with some adhesive brackets, and I carefully drilled some holes just big enough for that cord to run through. And I did my best to hide that cord wherever I can. There are clips that comes with this, and for these big cabinets that will have glass doors in the end, the frame of the door should hide all this. I went to the local hardware store, picked up some lumber so I can start constructing the glass doors in the center of the uppers. I did opt for primed wood. It's just one step already out of the way, and I plan on painting these doors anyway. I'm going to measure and get some rough measurements, both for the right door and the left door, just in case there are any little slight differences, and then start designing the doors. I've got everything all cut and laid out for this first door, and now I can start drilling my pocket holes. I am gonna hold everything together with pocket holes. This door is gonna be painted, so I will be plugging the holes and sanding it smooth, painting over it, and it will be perfectly fine. Also gonna use wood glue. That creates a nice strong bond. I also opted to go with these cross braces in the middle. It'll help hold everything together, keep it nice and strong, and then I won't have such large glass pieces to try to source. I'll have 4 smaller ones. Now that everything is all built and constructed, we still need a place for the glass to sit into the back frame of this cabinet. My dad grabbed his handheld router and he offered to route the back for me, and I absolutely jumped all over that. I know how to use a router. I can use a router. I have a router. I've used it plenty of times. I know a lot of people are wary around like table saws, things like that. The router is the tool that gives me pause. You have to be very careful with routers. They have a very fast spinning, very sharp blade, and it's a handheld tool. Just use caution when you're using one. In the end, it did the job exactly how we needed it to. With those holes all plugged up, I can let this sit overnight, give that wood glue plenty of time to cure, and tomorrow it's time to sand everything down and paint it. I love the way these are looking, and now I can start measuring and cutting for some shelves to go inside. I'll just do a couple of them. I don't want to overcrowd this cabinet. That way some taller things can go in there as well. And with those shelves installed in those two large uppers, my week here is done. I'm exhausted. I think we accomplished quite a bit. I am heading back home again, so there will be a little bit of a break between content. But don't you worry, I will be back here. I will be showing more updates, showing some more finished rooms. And I have a feeling my parents are gonna get pretty far on that primary bathroom. It's really coming together. My dad worked so hard in this room over the last 2 weeks. There are several things that happened kind of behind the scenes that he was taking care of while I was working hard on the kitchen and my mom was working hard on painting. I don't know if you remember, but this original opening of this doorway was so small. It was probably like a 26, 28-inch doorway. It was tiny, and we really wanted to open it up and make it bigger. So he went ahead and removed the paneling that was on this wall that separated the bedroom closet from this bathroom to see if we could steal a little bit of room from that closet to widen this doorway. And it just wasn't going to happen. It looked like the 2x4s were some supporting beams, and it just would have been a lot more work to move that while keeping everything supported. So what we opted to do instead was to remove this little wall that was separating the toilet from the rest of the bathroom. Ideally, we were looking to keep that wall. It adds just a little bit of privacy in case someone came in here to use the restroom while someone was showering, for example. But in our opinion, a bigger doorway was much more useful than a tiny little wall to add a little tiny bit more privacy to the toilet area. So he ripped that wall down, and after doing that, we just determined, instead of saving the small amount of paneling that was left in this restroom, he ripped all the paneling out and just re-sheetrocked the entire restroom. The only wall that did have sheetrock behind the paneling was this one exterior wall. So that was still in good shape and we could use that, but the rest of it got sheetrocked. We also planned out the area for the shower. We're going to do a really pretty neo-angle shower, which, if you know what those are, they kind of sit kitty corner, and they're a corner shower that offers a lot more space than a traditional corner shower. And you don't see them every day. I think they're really fun and quirky and really cool. That should be coming in within the next week or two, so that will get plumbed and all of that will get taken care of behind the scenes. And then we can pick out some tile. But before any of that happens, I think my parents are going to dig into painting this room. Again, it's going to match the rest of the house. Get painted that Swiss coffee color. That's a really nice warm off-white color that pairs really well with the flooring choices we're making, as well as the trim color. The plan here is to still keep a vanity, and we're about 99% sure we are going to create this into a double sink type vanity. It just is a lot more useful, functional, and pretty nice to have in a primary bathroom. That is something that I will build custom. Again, custom to this bathroom, custom to this space, custom to the pipes and all of that will be required to be cut out around. Instead of doing that vanity at home, I will probably build that here on site so that I can measure and cut in and do my drawer boxes around the pipes. So that will have to happen in a couple of weeks. But besides that, I am so excited for this little restroom. We were able to get some flush mount lights up in the ceiling to add tons of light. And of course, we're going to have a vanity light above the vanity as well. One of the other projects that we were able to tackle this week was actually flipping this door around. If you remember, initially we were planning on ripping this door altogether and putting in something slightly smaller, maybe just a single glass door. But the more we started taking this apart and looking at it, it's actually in really, really great shape. We thought that there were some major issues with it, but once we figured out the different repairs that have been made, could be made, we were able to take this center door out, flip the entire thing, because if you remember, they installed this door backwards, so the actual sliding door was on the outside, which meant it could be removed from the outside, which is not good. It's not very safe. So this big, heavy wooden frame door is reinforced, put back in the studs. Everything is working beautifully on it. It just needs to be cleaned up, repainted, and there's really nothing wrong with it. And it provides so much natural light, this beautiful view into the backyard. I actually probably about 10 minutes ago saw a flock of wild turkeys walking through the forested area back there. It's just such a beautiful house with a beautiful private backyard. This house is actually on a cul-de-sac. I know from this view, it looks like we're in the middle of nowhere. We are not. We're in the middle of town. So you have all of those nice amenities while having extreme privacy. This house is technically on a golf course community, and it's the last house on the back of a cul-de-sac. So it is quiet, it is private, and there is not a lot of traffic that drives by because it's on that cul-de-sac. It really is probably the nicest lot in this little section of this community by far. And lastly, in my opinion, one of the most exciting changes and the thing that you got to see the most of this week and the weeks before is this beautiful kitchen. I am so happy, not to toot my own horn, but I think it turned out beautiful. I couldn't even imagine that it would look this good in the end. I knew that it was going to look good, look custom, look unique, but this really does look like something that nobody else has. All of the cabinets have been handmade, selected specifically for the size that's required, and I think I did a pretty good job at utilizing the small space that I did have to really make this kitchen as useful and grand as possible. A couple of my key favorite features would be these corner cabinets in conjunction with these tall, grand glass door cabinets. Now, obviously, it's not complete. I don't have the glass yet. That's been ordered. It's being cut, and we should be picking it up later in the week. I just won't be here to receive it and install it. Secondly, I do want to put one more shelf up there. Again, I'm out of plywood that will span that distance, so I need to pick up another sheet of plywood. Next time I'm here, I will cut that shelf and also work on cutting the shelves for the rest of the cabinets. They all currently are just bare inside. I absolutely love a cup pull in a kitchen. I think that they're really handy and useful. They provide a really good surface to grab onto to pull a drawer out. Plus, they're very timeless and really elegant. Those paired with these simple round knobs for all of the doors, I think are just a great complement to each other. I tried not to go with things that are too overly trendy because I want this kitchen to last years and years and years and people to still be in love with it for decades to come. This wonderful window over the sink is allowing so much natural light to come in and definitely helps to make this kitchen feel not quite so small, not quite so closed in. It opens it up, brings the nature from outside inside. And I think once we have our countertop and sink in place, it's going to be a really beautiful feature to this little space. And lastly are these floating shelves. Again, we could have put an upper cabinet here, and yes, it would have added more storage, but it really would have closed in this little kitchen. It would have blocked off this window quite a bit, and it would have blocked off the sight line. So while adding a little bit of decorative storage here, I think we're able to utilize this space. And you have to remember, this house has quite a few closets, not to mention a huge pantry off the dining room area. So I don't think people will necessarily have to use any of this cabinetry for food storage. I mean, they can if they want to. I think that there's more than enough space for dishes, pots and pans, that kind of stuff, where we can get away with having these shelves instead of a big bulky cabinet blocking off the light and making the space feel a lot more closed in. Thank you for coming along with me on another week of reno work, another week of a lot of hard work, but really gratifying and satisfying results in the end. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, feel free to check out my other reno videos or maybe even some of my furniture videos. And I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe. Thank you so much.